Hey, what's up guys? John here. I made bold predictions in the past and many of them have come true. In December of 2020, I stated that the eviction moratorium in California will go until at least 2023, probably longer. Many people thought that that was far out there and could never happen. Yet, Los Angeles eviction moratorium is now June of 2023, and now the state of California, as of yesterday, just applied for the entire state, and it's law that you cannot evict a tenant if they filed for help, financial help, until June of 2022. I believe we're going to see more extensions on that, pulling that prediction straight home, being completely fact, 100% fact for the state of California. Los Angeles is already fact. But another prediction I made was all the protests, all the riots, everything that was happening in New York City right around that same time, that if you were to look at this as a business owner, this is what I said, if you were to look at this as a business owner, and you could hire a police officer for $70,000 to $100,000 a year, $70,000 to $80,000 in that range per year, but you had to pay medical benefits, 401k, retirement packages, you had to give paid sick leave, you had to give all these perks and benefits, and plus you had to tend to that person. Would you do that? Or if you could bring in a non-racially biased robotics type of solution, and that's how they'll package it, right? So if that's what they are doing, that's what I think is going to be the solution, right? That's how it's going to unfold. And people will say that, John, that's not going to happen. Well, Mayor Adams of New York, he just stated 4 days ago that they're contemplating a purchase of drones between $70,000 and $100,000. The exact price point that I predicted, exact to the penny, that prediction. And now that looks like it's going to come to fruition, right? There might be some kickback on it, but they're going to really push that through, I believe. And I think that if it happens in New York, it's going to happen in LA, then it's going to go to San Fran. I think it's going to go to Miami and Tampa, Austin, Chicago, Atlanta. It's going to hit all the big markets, right? I believe that's what is going to happen, is we're going to start to see more of that, right? Now, what I'm listening to, when I'm listening to like the CEO of BlackRock with 10 trillion assets under management, we're looking at Biden, all these world leaders, all these, all these very wealthy people making these statements about where we're headed. You can connect the dots pretty easily. At least for me, I can connect the dots and understand what it's going to likely look like in the short term and the midterm. So and the long term. So in the next 6 months to 24 months, I think in the next 6 months to 8 months, right before the end of the year, we're going to see some very unique things happen. So first, before I even jump into that, if you could just hit that like button if you'd like to support this channel. It does so much for this channel. And then YouTube's going to share this content to educate a lot of people. So if you could, please hit that like button. Now, a couple of very unique things that are happening. Now in China, they're closing things down again. They're warning us that we're going to start to see more supply chain issues, right? More supply chain issues. And you think about the timing, the port of Long Beach, they had all this backlog. They weren't letting people come in. They had all this chaos and confusion, right? Well, Larry Fink, on the 24th of March, let his shareholders know that we're going to start to see America get cut off from the global supply chain, and that we're going to start bringing our jobs and our industry back to America, right? Now, a lot of people will say that is amazing, and they'll jump right into that happy camp. But the reality of what this means is it means for everyday consumers that are already getting killed with inflation. They say 7% was the CPI last year, and they're saying 10% is likely for 2022. Many would argue that inflation last year was 30% or more, and this year it could be 35 or 50%. Who knows? We're only halfway through, right? So what does this mean if not factoring in those two scenarios, the inflation last year plus the inflation now, bringing in this new situation where we're going to rebuild out infrastructure? He said it's going to be an inflationary environment. That was his wording. It's going to be an inflationary event is bringing this back, right? So how can they hire cheap labor at a level where we can actually afford to purchase, right? How can they do that if everything's going up so much? You're going to need to pay workers, 30 to 50 bucks an hour. They're not going to do it because people won't be able to afford the products. They're going to bring in robotics and technology and AI, and they're going to bring these platforms in, and it's likely going to be a rent situation, like a subscription-based business model. That is likely going to continue to roll out. They've even talked about that lightly. But I think we're going to start to see the beginning stages of this coming very, very soon. We'll probably see the pullback of jobs of industry back into America probably in early and mid 2023. And the next 6 months are probably going to get really challenging with food supply. Even Biden has come out saying that, yeah, the food supply thing is going to be real and to get ready for it. We've even seen, I'm seeing this in my everyday life. A lot of places I go to, they'll be out of something random. Like, I always drink iced vanilla lattes. They'll be out of vanilla, or I'll go somewhere and they'll be out of something else, right? And so I'm seeing this in my everyday life, but for me, it's so small, it's not that big of a deal. But I think it's likely going to progress a lot in 2022. I think the next 6 months, we're going to really see a big progression of this supply chain problem. But a couple other things that are very unique, because we're in an environment now where they're increasing interest rates. Interest rates were 2.875% about 6 months ago, and now they're mid fives. I think we're going to see a 6.5% interest rate by the end of the year if you're a borrower with a 680 or higher credit score. We're going to see that 6.5 range, meaning that the price is going to be going up for, if you were to, let's say, purchase a property for $400,000 and you took out a 30-year fixed rate on a $300K loan, your monthly cost would be going up probably by 60%. It's a substantial sum. So what does that mean? It means affordability is going to get really, really hard for a lot of people. And so what would happen to the housing market? Hey, here's the big guess here. For the housing market, what I think is very likely to happen is that homeowners and home buyers have two options. Home buyers are either going to pay more on a monthly payment, or they are going to see prices fall. But there's so much money on the sidelines that are simply just afraid of the inflationary environment we're in, that they themselves are paying a monthly tax on inflation holding the cash. So if they believe that real inflation last year was 20 or 30%, and this year is going to be 30 or 40 or 50%, for them not to pay 10, 20, 30, 40% more for a property and hope for a crash down the road, I think may not be probable. I think that if they even see a 5 or 10% pullback, they're going to run out there, and there's just so much money in the sidelines, they're going to run out there and acquire assets and flip them over as rentals. And then what I think is very likely to happen here is that we're going to see more and more of these stimulus packages, all these these benefits that they're trying to pull into consumers. Right now, Biden's talking a $5.8 trillion package for 2023. And when we're in an inflationary environment, people aren't going to be able to afford food and things like that. What are they going to do? They're going to bring out a universal basic income. I think we're going to start to see real discussion of a broad universal basic income in probably Q1 of 2023. That's what I think is going to happen. In the beginning, it's probably going to be more, short-term payouts, like they're talking about $300 monthly gas stipend to help people, right? I think we're going to start to see a little short-term benefits there. And then in Q1 of 2023, I think they're going to start pushing for that. I also think in 2023, they're going to roll out a digital dollar. I think that's inevitable. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, even stated himself that they're doing a lot of research on this digital dollar. And with the digital dollar, and you look at the Postal Service right now, everything is getting lost in the mail. They'll be able to pay and issue these stipends quickly, and I think that's going to happen. It's going to be gradual, but I think that it will definitely happen. We're going to see all this kind of unfold here. It's going to be very unique. It's going to be a different type of lifestyle that a lot of Americans they can't even comprehend, because it just seems so far out there. But it's going to happen. It's 100% going to happen. We're going to see things really get bad. Like I've said, even like my early videos, 2020 is bad, 2021 is going to be a lot worse, and 2022 is going to be a hell of a lot worse than 2021. It's just going to progressively get harder and more challenging, right? And so as an investor, how do we play this game? This is the big question. How do we play this game? Now, what I'm looking at is the dollar, right? The dollar as a whole. If we look at all fiat currencies throughout the history of the world, they all end in zero, all of them, right? And so the dollar right now, they just cut off Russia. They cut off Russia from the global economy. Now, if you were, let's say, China or India or in any other country, and you could see that the dollar holding reserve currency status can simply just cut off a country, what would you think? Even if you weren't Russia, you would say, you know what, that country might not be as stable and sound and maybe doesn't deserve that type of power and responsibility, right? What we've done, what we're experiencing is we're experiencing the punishment of the dollar. That's what we're going to be seeing. I think we're going to see this new digital currency roll out. It might be a digital dollar. It might be a global digital currency, whatever it may be. We're going to start to see this whole thing kind of unroll and unravel very soon, right? And this is going to be a real shock because most people are so caught up in what the celebrities are saying. You know, like if the celebrity takes a political stance, or if the news or one of these outlets takes a stance, then everyone hops on the bandwagon and wants to take the same stance, right? I don't listen to any celebrities ever, never ever. I won't listen to like any news. I won't listen to any of that. I think honestly it's all brain rot, and it just makes you dumber to pay attention to any of that stuff. So I don't listen to any of it, but they're using this as a wedge to get everyone on board to believe everything that they're saying, right? Even like what they're saying right now, like I believe we're going to start to see with what they're saying in China. I think we're going to start to see a new round of closures and problems coming to America next 3 to 5 months. And you can even see it now with like Kathy Griffin and like all these different celebrities saying different things, and then the media outlets saying different things. And those outlets are trying to give us a warning as to what I think is likely to come, right? And so as this all kind of unfolds, it's such a perfect relationship with like a universal basic income and subsidies and support, because if people close down again, and they're closing down in an inflationary environment, they have to restart up, and things are getting that much more expensive when they restart up and people don't have the money to actually purchase the products. I mean, you use your imagination, it's likely going to become much more challenging, right? And so for us as investors, we're looking at the stock market, looking at crypto markets, looking at the real estate market, all these different things. It is so hard to predict how things are going to unfold, simply because this is like a game of musical chairs, like I've said before, except they control the music. So at any direction, they can shut the music off. So I do believe having multiple options is going to be the best option. No longer relying on one income. I think relying on one income is going to be a huge, huge problem. I think it's going to be a massive problem. And having one bank account at one bank, or having no reserves, or having no backup plans, or all these things, are putting yourself in a very vulnerable place, right? And so I think that the smart entrepreneur is paying attention to this, saying, okay, well, if this is kind of the direction that we're heading in, like economically, if this is where the economy is going, what business can I start? How can I look at the world? What would if I wanted to make a huge mistake, what would that mistake look like, knowing this information? And then just don't make that mistake, right? Like Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner, said, he's like, if I knew where I was going to die, I simply just would never go there, right? That's unfortunately kind of like what I think is going to happen. I think America, we're going to lose our reserve currency status. Things are going to get a lot more expensive. We're going to move to subscription programs for everything. And we're going to start to see this affordability crisis get out of control. Crime's going to get out of control. Drones, AI, robotics are going to start to do a lot of the surveilling and manufacturing. I think we're going to start to see so many jobs disappear because of this. And we're switching to a digital currency for sure. I think the real estate market is going to go through a massive change. And this is where I see things going. But I'm curious as to what you think. Where do you see the economy going? If you were to invest right now, would you invest in the stock market? Would you invest in crypto? Would you invest in real estate? Where would you invest? Where do you see the dollar going? Because it's a very unique relationship also. Because the last thing you want to do is sit on a war chest of dollars and have no options long term, right? Because eventually the dollar is just going to continue getting pulled down, and then you'll be sitting in something that's bringing a negative yield. Now, I think it is smart to have dollars to invest, but it's also not smart to be 100% dollars. What do you think? Do you think that this is an environment where you should just go all in real estate, all in on land, all in crypto, precious metals? Where are you putting your money? Drop your comments below on where you see this unfolding, and hit that like button. Again, hit the like button. It does so much for the channel. Subscribe here. Consider subbing on my second channel, my personal channel, on TikTok as well for short form content. And if you have young children, I have an educational channel for my young son. He's 2 years old. I'll leave links down below for everything. All right, guys, catch you later.